Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. As the title says, we will be talking about sex, purity, and dating. Truth be told, I already filmed this video, but in editing, I thought I didn't do justice to it, and this is something that I'm very passionate about because I just don't think enough information is out there surrounding these topics in just a straight up and practical way. So I'm very excited to be having this conversation with you, and I hope that you enjoy this video. Alright, so sex, purity, and dating, all very important topics that, we have to think about, talk about, come in contact with at one point or another in our lives. And I think, especially depending on your background, on your religious stand, how spiritual you are, how you were grown, we all have different views on these topics, and how we view them, I think, is greatly affected by how we were brought up and the things that we were taught and told. And I think it comes out in the way that we talk about those things, the way that we address those things, and the way in which we engage in those things. And so I was lucky enough to grow up in a home where, it was talked about. We were, as a family, we had open discussions. And even in my church, like, there were a lot of programs centered around, sex, purity, and dating. But I still found, or I'm still learning, and I'm still understanding, many different things that I wasn't taught or I wasn't told. And it's not because people are refraining information from me, but I think some things just come with experience, some things just come with, going through certain situations. And I think too, being a young woman, being a young black woman, being a young black Christian woman, just my experiences, as I express and I live and I engage with others, I've learned so much. And there are certain things that I learned that, I wish somebody had told me or I had known before. And so this is kind of just like what this video is about. I'm just passing on the knowledge. And I mean, of course, I'm still very young, and I have a lot more to learn. And so if you have any tips, if you have anything that you've learned that I didn't touch on, leave them in the comments below, and I sure will read them, and I'm sure it will help somebody else. So let's get right into it. Okay, so if you know me and if you have been following me on social media, you know that purity is something that I'm very passionate about, something that I talk about a lot. I have a whole series on Instagram and Facebook about purity, where I went through a 7-day Kickstart to Sexual Purity devotional done by a young woman that I actually went to high school with in Jamaica. It is also on my little sister's YouTube channel, which I'll have linked below if you want to go and watch those videos. I really enjoyed doing them. It was a blessing. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about purity is that we don't really talk about it in the way that I think that we should. We don't really address the issues surrounding purity. And I think that too, we have all these walls and these, ideas surrounding purity that makes it so rigid and strict and stern. And it just, in my opinion, that's not what it is. That's not how we should look at it. And so for me, like, one thing that I love to say is that purity is more than just whether or not you have sex before a marriage. It's more than your engagements with the opposite sex. Purity is the way that you live. It is a lifestyle. It's the way that you think. It's the way that you interact. It's the way that you talk with others. It's so much more than just your physical. It's your mental, it's your emotional, and it's your spiritual. And that's something that I love to highlight anytime that I'm talking about purity. That, we love to just say, oh, it's just about sex, but it really is not. And when we get into a place where we start to understand that it goes beyond just your physical, your emotional, your hormones, then, we start to have bigger and deeper conversations about purity. But for the sake of this video, we're going to focus kind of on sexual purity, and just protecting your physical. And I want to say that too, protecting your physical leads to protecting your emotional and your mental. So for me, like, I grew up, as I said, I'm Christian. And so I grew up, learning. It was instilled in me to not have sex before marriage. It's not what God has designed sex for. And so, it was just set, just don't have sex before marriage. But I also found that, like, there were no deeper conversations as to why. Okay, I know that God says it, but like, but why does he say it? And I think I've gotten to the place where I seen where I I just developed this understanding of, it's such an intimate experience, it's such a personal thing, that I don't want to just be sharing that part of me with every and anyone. And so when I'm entering into marriage, or when I've entered into marriage and I have that commitment with that person, I am able to be vulnerable. I'm able to just be me and to not worry about, do they really like me? Are they just using me? It just takes away all that stress. And so, I'm able to just realize the beauty of what God created in the circumstance that he created it for, if that makes sense. And think I like to be very practical with this. When you're not married and you're having sex, there's just a lot of additional stress that comes alongside it. Stressing about, am I pregnant? Did I catch an STDs? And I find like our people don't really talk about STDs anymore, which I think is very crazy, because I mean, it is a very serious thing. And I feel like, especially because society and media has casualized sex so much, those are important things to talk about, that yes, you can catch diseases, you can, end up with infections. And it's just easier to abstain and to refrain from all that additional stress. And as I said before, it's not just about your physical well-being. You get attached to people. Like, I think it's impossible to be that intimate with somebody and not get attached. And as I said, media likes to casualize this thing and say that, oh, you can just do whatever you want with anybody and you'll still be okay. That is just not true. You do form attachments, and you will emotionally and mentally end up scarring yourself if you continue to just casualize sex and just engage with every and anyone. I know it's not an easy route, especially if you were not being abstinent before, but I want to say too that I believe that as much as we can be born again Christians, we can be born again virgins, for lack of a better word. But if your purity walk, if your stance with God wasn't always perfect, if you've fallen, if you made wrong decisions, or if you just, you weren't a Christian or a spiritual person, or you just didn't value the importance of waiting until marriage, if you choose to start now, that is perfectly fine. It doesn't invalidate you. It doesn't make your walk any less significant or any less worth celebrating. And I think it just magnifies the fact that, again, this purity thing is not just a one size fits all kind of situation, but we all have different experiences. We all go through life differently. And so your walk will look different from mine. My walk will look different from yours. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, as long as we're doing what is best for us and what is best for our relationship with others and with God. Again, two, you have to realize that when you do have sex, it is not just about you. There are other people involved, and you have to be in a space, you have to be mentally aware of the fact that, this is a serious act, and whatever consequences come alongside it will not just affect you, will not just affect me, but it will affect everybody else around us. Again, I know it's not easy, and I know it goes against a lot of what culture and society says, but I promise you, it is so beneficial. It is so worth waiting. And everybody has their different reasons. For some people, it's a religious thing, it's a spiritual thing. It could just be how they were brought up, or it could be that people are not religious or Christian, but it's just their personal choice, or they just don't want to, have others have access to them in that way. And I mean, whatever your choice is for your purity, for your stance on how you choose to engage with others, I just hope that it's something that you are proud of, you are confident in, and at the end of the day, that you feel good in your choices and you feel good in your relationship with yourself and with those around you. Okay, So the next thing is dating. Growing up Jamaican, Caribbean, um, it was a very just don't do it kind of situation. Um, and I would say in that sense, there was a strictness to it in terms of like from my parents, but there was still conversation surrounding it. Like we talked about it, we talked about when it would be appropriate, um, and why it wasn't appropriate when I was 13, and all of those things. And I mean, I can see that, like, I understand when I'm talking to people younger than me in their earlier mid-teens and they're like, but I am in love and this person is my person and I just want to express my love by being in a committed relationship with them. I understand because I was there. I had those feelings. I swear I was going to marry somebody who I knew when I was 13, and now at 22 I can tell you that no. But I think too, again, with this, there was not a lot of information given about dating or why it was such a serious thing. Like, we don't talk about how emotionally and mentally draining dating can be, and as well as the responsibility that you have to take upon yourself when it comes down to dating, and just ensuring that you're in a space mentally and emotionally where you can date somebody and understand that they're a separate entity from you and you're a separate entity, and you guys have to learn how to come together in such a way that you don't lose your individuality, but you're able to bond and to share the things that you guys find similar, if that makes sense. So at this stage in my life, I realized the seriousness of dating. I realized how important dating is, but also the responsibility that comes along with it, the weight that comes along with it. And so I know people who date just to date because they don't want to be alone. I'm not one of those people. I don't want to enter into something without, going in thinking that, okay, how are we going to come together for a better good, a greater cause? How are we going to benefit each other, benefit those around us, and maybe see ourselves together in the future? If you are in your early mid-teens and you're not allowed to date, I will tell you this: people of the opposite sex will always be around. There will always be girls, there will always be boys. Do not rush into it. Do not give into the peer pressure, where all your friends are dating, and so you feel like you have to date as well. Do not rush. Enjoy your early teens, your mid-teens. Enjoy your friends. Build friendships, and develop yourself. You're going through a tough time as it is, and just trying to figure out who you are. Take that time to just live, to feel, to be happy, and I promise you that when the time comes for you to be with somebody in that way, it'll happen. It will happen, trust me. Also, group dating, I think that's such a brilliant thing to do. If you're interested in somebody and they're interested in you as well, go on group dates. Get a bunch of friends together and say, okay, hey, we're gonna go to the movies, because then it gives you the opportunity to spend time with that person, but then it gives you comfortability in knowing that you're not just alone with them, so that if things aren't going south, you don't have to deal with it alone, or you can just navigate yourself to the other side of the group, to avoid that person for the rest of the night. And also, if you don't feel pressured into doing anything that you possibly would feel pressured into doing if you guys were out alone by yourself. And I mean, take the time to just hang out with people, get to know people, go to a park or somewhere, I mean after quarantine, and just feel out situations. Get to know yourself first. That's something that I've learned now, is the importance of knowing yourself and the importance of loving yourself. And I think to know why you want to be in a relationship. If you want to be in a relationship because you're miserable or you're unhappy, being in a relationship is not going to satisfy that. You have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn how to be happy with yourself. If you are miserable, with yourself, ain't nobody gonna be happy with you. So learn how to love yourself. Practice self-love. Go out, engage with others. Just live and enjoy life. Life does not center around a relationship with the opposite sex. Trust me. There's just so much out there to do, so much to explore, so much to learn. And don't feel trapped or forced into getting into a relationship because this is what everyone's doing in the movies, or this is what the music of today's generation is saying that we should do, or because your friends are doing it. Pace yourself, give yourself time to grow and to develop, because you don't want to look back and just see regret after regret after regret when you look back into your that was Siri. But you don't want to you don't want to look back and you're just filled with regret and saying that I wish I had or I wish I hadn't. And if you have parents or people in your life, adults, who are able to talk to you openly and you're comfortable with them, talk to them about dating. Ask them, what did they do, how did it work for them, and take those tips and apply it to your lives. I have learned to learn from other people's mistakes so that I don't have to, and it's been working great for me because it saves me a lot of heartache. So learn from people, talk to people, pace yourselves. And again, if you're on the older side, if you're late 20s, early 20s, late teens, anywhere around there, or if you're just single, again, I've learned to just learn how to enjoy my time with myself, to develop who I need to be. My mentor tells me all the time that I have to enjoy my single season, to work on myself, because she always says, and I mean this leans more to the side of marriage, but it can be applied. It is better to be single wanting to be married than to be married wanting to be single. Enjoy life. Find things to fill that time and that space. Find good friend groups. If you're lonely, just go out with your friends, enjoy time with your family, make the best of the time that you have right now. Again, relationships will always be there, and there's just all the time in the world for them. And once you get into it, you gotta shift some things in your life. So I just say, live your life to the fullest, live your life to the best. And I mean, when it is to happen, it will happen for you. Do not settle. Do not ever settle. Do not rush into anything. And just be patient with yourself, love on yourself, and I promise you, when it is to happen for you, it will happen for you. Alright, so last but definitely not least, we're going to talk about sex just for a little bit. Again, I was told, just don't have sex before marriage. And that's it. Just don't. And I mean, that's a good thing to live by, but I feel like there's more to the conversation, and usually we just don't have more. I mean, I was lucky enough, again, I had a family that was very open. We had conversations, and I went to a church. I grew up in Jamaica, so my elder in Jamaica, for those who don't know what an elder is, it's like a leader in the church. But I remember there was one night where he kicked all the parents out of the church, and he brought us food. That was an important part to ensuring that we stayed. And he just had a very open and candid and very uncomfortable conversation with us. And I remember it made such an impact on me, and it helped me in developing a better understanding of sex and why it's important to save it for marriage. And I guess this ties in with what we said earlier about purity. Again, it's a vulnerable act. It's very intimate, and you just don't want to be sharing yourself with somebody just casually every other weekend and some other person. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to start creating that lifestyle or those habits for yourself. You don't want to be putting yourself in situations that you wake up regretful the next morning, wishing you hadn't. And here's the thing, once you do that with somebody, there's just no taking it back. No matter how bad you feel, no matter how much you regret it, there's just no coming back from that. And the thing is, and how I look at it, and this is my view, you give a piece of yourself to that person that you will never be able to get back. They have seen you in one of the most vulnerable intimate states that you can be in, and they will forever be able to just recall that memory and see you like that, you know. And I feel like that's just, again, not something you want everybody to have access to, you know. And I feel like, especially now, like, media, everything is so overly sexualized, and you know, everyone feels pressured into doing this. You should decide. You have the right to choose what is best for you when you choose to do certain things in life, when you choose to commit to people. That is all up to you, and you should not be pressured by anyone into doing anything. And if you're in a situation, especially if you're younger and you are being pressured, or you are in situations that you feel like you don't have a choice, find somebody. I promise you, find somebody to just tell them what's going on and to ask for help, ask for guidance. And if it is a loving, responsible adult or older person, they will not judge you, they will not look down on you, they will not blame you for the situation that you are in, regardless of how you got in there. They will seek to help you, and I'm sure that they will find some way to help you to navigate the situation. And if you're an older person, make yourself available to have those conversations with younger people, to be open enough and honest enough to share with them, you know, maybe your experiences, like, oh yes, I did this before I was married, and it led me to feeling so scarred or so used, or you know, it led to me having a kid out of wedlock, or getting some sorts of, you know, whatever. And just being vulnerable, real and open and honest. Because a lot of times I feel like if people were to just talk about their experiences with sex and outside of marriage versus in marriage, it would highlight just the importance. Because a lot of times, you know, especially if you're not religious, waiting, like, what is the real purpose of waiting? You know, like, why? And I mean, even if you don't view marriage as something important, or you don't see yourself getting married, waiting until you're in a committed relationship, waiting until that you're with somebody that you feel safe with, you feel secure with, and that you're willing and able to be vulnerable with them in that light, in that space. It just, again, protects you not only physically but mentally and emotionally. And again, wherever even if you have had sex before, if you've made that mistake, if you felt pressured into do it, no matter what, no matter where you were, no matter how old you were, no matter, you know, whatever happened, if you take a stand right now and you're just like, that is not for me anymore, this is not what I want to do, again, you are validated in your choices. Do not let anyone tell you that you can't or you have to do something that you don't want to do. And again, and I say this all the time, be around friends, around significant others, have relationships with people who respect your boundaries and your choices, especially when it comes onto your body and what you choose to do with it. And just remove yourself from situations where you don't feel like you have the support of the people around you when you say no, when you stand up for what you believe is right and good. And to just remember that your value, your worth, it hasn't shifted, it hasn't changed no matter what you've done. And that you are still loved, you are still amazing, and that your journey, your walk, wherever you want to go in life, wherever you want to go, you know, career-wise, family-wise, just in terms of your personal development, no matter your past, no matter your past choices, it may be more difficult because of your past choices, but it's not impossible. You're still able to do it. You can still go out there and be the best version of you, and you can still go out there and have a fulfilling and just a beautiful life. All right, so those were what I wanted to share, well, a little bit of what I wanted to share. There's just a lot more that I would like to open up about and to just have that conversation with you guys about, but for now that's that's all that we're going to talk about for today. And I hope that, you know, you found it informative. I hope that you were able to take something from it, and I just really hope that it was uplifting and encouraging, and that you feel, you know, encouraged, enabled, and to just know that, you know, regardless of where you're going, once you're choosing to live a better life for you, you have my support. I'll always be in your corner, and I'll always be rooting for you, as this is a very open and supportive and non-judgmental place. And I just really hope that this video was helpful to someone. So as always, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please remember to like and to subscribe. And as always, you are beautiful, you are loved, and you are enough. I will see you on a Wednesday for Worship Wednesdays.